Chapter 17. Sri Sadguru said, "The nature of a Prema Bhakta is different from that of ordinary men. The world cannot easily understand the purity of his heart. He appears to be a jnani at one time and a fool at another time. He seems to be a highly matured and a grown up person at one time and a child at another. He appears to be a proud man at one time and a very humble person at another. At one time, he appears to be an angry man, at another, he appears to be a man of endurance. A Prema Bhakta thus seems to be a strange and peculiar person. The illusion common people of the world cannot make out and understand his real mental state. No one can understand the heart of the bhakta, which is as tough as thunderstone, as soft as a flower. There was an exalted personality named Korakumba who was intoxicated by the sweetness of the nectar of loving devotion and had meditation on Sri Panduranga as the only object of his life. His wife Tulasi Bai was very humble, beautiful, chaste, good natured, had purity of heart and all noble qualities. That Vaishnavite couple had a son called Haridasa, born as a result of blessings of Sri Panduranga. Korakumba was making pots of clay and selling them in the market. Thus he maintained his family. Thus the great Vaishnava was leading his life engaged in the hereditary profession and unintermittently doing the bhajan of Sri Panduranga. Once the great sadhu was making a dough of clay immersed in the joy of Harikirtan. Almost like a lunatic, he was dancing and singing in praise of Sri Hari. Absorbed in Hari Dhyana, he lost consciousness of his body, his son, the world, and even the clay paste. At that time, his young son, who was very much attached to him, came crawling. With great affection, the child clung to his foot. That noble man did not take notice of his child who had come there. Absorbed in the divine bliss, losing himself in Panduranga Dhyanam, he was dancing on the muddy floor, wrapped with wet clay paste. The child fell on the clay paste, stamped by the dancing father. The child was crushed under his feet. He cried bitterly and died suddenly. The loving mother, Tulasi Bai, ran here and there in search for her son, and finally found him lying dead there. Looking at her dead son and the unconscious husband, she fainted and fell on the floor. After some time, she got up and hugged her husband. Then, with the dead son in her hands, screamed like a bird that had lost its companion. That great man knew that he had committed the sin of infanticide. Stricken with fear and sorrow on the loss of his beloved son, he fell on the floor and cried. He consoled Tulasi Bai also. That man of great wisdom and repository of compassion, named Korakumba, attained self realization and enlightenment and consoled his wife. Korakumba said, "O Devi, all the creatured bodies of this earth are mortals undoubtedly. Please pacify yourself with the help of reasoning. Sri Panduranga, the treasure chest of mercy, has decided to bless us with enlightenment. That is why he gave us a son earlier and now he has taken him back. So therefore, we shall take Lord Panduranga himself to be our son, our father, our mother, guardian, and master, and cultivate single minded devotion for him." The child was very fortunate. Daily he used to lips in praise of Sri Vittala and finally reached his holy feet. I do not have a deep devotion to him as the child had. Perhaps I pretend to have devotion. That is why I am facing such sorrows and am still roaming about this evil ridden earth. Sri Sadguru said, seeing her husband lamenting like this, the chaste woman took the dead son in her hands and went to Sri Panduranga. At that time, Tulasi Bai, though endowed with devotion, was engulfed by agony of loss of her son. Hence, she blamed Lord Panduranga to be heartless. When Korumangala listened to this, he ran with a knife in his hand to cut her tongue off. The frightened Tulsi Bai swore on Lord Panduranga and asked him not to touch her. From that day, he kept away from his wife and never dared to touch her. Their only son had died. As they mutually maintained distance, there was no possibility of begetting another son. Tulsi Bai, the childless mother, became sad and distressed. Once at midnight, she slowly touched her sleeping husband's hand with all affection. She thought he would come into her fold. Korukumba woke up. As he was firm about his woe, he took the sword and cut off his hand touched by his wife. The courageous Korakumba, who treated weal and woe alike, spent his days in the dhyana of Lord Vittala along with his wife. Tulasi, the chaste woman, who did not hate her husband even when her desire remained unfulfilled. She was attending to him as best as she could. Once accompanied by his wife, Korakumba came to Pandaripuram replete with devotees. There, Namadeva, who had Krishna Kirtan as the only object of his life, distributed symbols to all the Vaishnavas belonging to the Kirtan troupe. Forgetting that he was lame, Korakumba too extended his arm to take one. Surprisingly, his hand appeared as before with all the fingers. All the Bhagavatas present there were filled with divine bliss to behold that miracle. With untold loving devotion, they uttered the divine names in high pitch. Tulsi Bai became extremely happy to find that her husband had got back his cut limb due to the mercy of Lord Panduranga. Tulsi Bai wished that she got back her lost son in the same way as her husband had got back his arm. Stirred with material love for her child, she prayed to Lord Panduranga with deep faith. Tulsi Bai prayed, O Lord, ocean of compassion, please return my son to me, just as you have once returned the son of Sandipani, your Guru. My husband, your devotee, was intoxicated with loving devotion to you. In that state of mind, he stamped on the child who had approached him. Hey, Lord of Devi Rukmini, let our child come to life if you have mercy and sympathy towards my husband. If it is true that my husband knows no God other than you, let our child come alive. Sri Sadguru continued. At the same moment, from amidst a group of sadhus, a child's cry was heard. Tulsi Bai looked back and found her dead son standing there alive. With surprise and joy, she hugged him. She was immensely happy to see her son alive and to think of her husband's loving devotion and the untold compassion of Lord Panduranga. At the command of Lord Panduranga, Korakumba relinquished his earlier vow. Along with his wife, he led a happy life. Thus ends chapter 17, entitled Korakumba Charitam of Book 8 of Shri Vaishnava Samhita, composed by Shri Krishna Premi Swamigal.